Their shields were rated Unbreakable. The Space Marines didn't give a F. If you are not a heretic, then declare your city of origin. Leave a comment, a like, and subscribe to the Emperor's Glory. At the conclusion, rate this tale from 0 to 10. The Emperor protects. The Corvani bridge crew watched their plasma cannons splash harmlessly against the enemy's shields like water against granite. Captain Thek's feathers bristled with fearful mounting panic as another volley from their Alliance fleet met the same fate. "Impossible!" whispered Commander Vosh, his lupine ears flat against his skull. "Those are Dreadnought-class weapons. They should pierce any known shielding." The enemy vessel hung in space like a disgusted metallic tumor, its surface crawling with geometric patterns that disgusted hurt to look at directly. The reptilian hegemony had finally done it, created truly impenetrable defense systems. 3 Allied fleets had already been reduced to debris fields trying to crack that shell. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human vessel," reported Navigator Yill, her bovine features creased with surprised confusion. "They're surprised, requesting permission to board the enemy ship." Every alien on the bridge, surprised, turned to stare. Captain Thek's talons, nervous, clicked nervously against his command chair. The humans had arrived only hours ago, a single battle barge that looked like a flying cathedral crossed with a weapons factory. Their first communication had been equally surprising, baffling. "We are the Crimson Fists, 3rd Battle Company. Point us toward the heretics." "Board it?" Thek squawked. "The shields that are deflecting our most powerful weapons, and they want to board it? How?" "They're saying something about ramming speed and for the Emperor," surprised, her large eyes blinking slowly. "I think they're serious, sir." On the tactical display, the human vessel was already moving. Unlike the graceful curves of Corvani ships or the efficient angles of lupine destroyers, the Space Marine battle barge looked like it had been assembled by zealots who believed function followed fury. Gothic spires jutted from its hull, and massive cannons protruded like the fangs of some ancient predator. "Get me their commander," Thek ordered. The view screen flickered, and the bridge fell silent. The human who appeared wore armor that seemed less like protection and more like a walking shrine. His face was a map of scars, and his eyes burned with an intensity that made the seasoned Corvani captain unconsciously step backward. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. "I am Captain Brother Valerius of the 3rd Battle Company, Crimson Fists Chapter. You will withdraw to minimum safe distance." "Captain Valerius," Thek managed, forcing his voice steady, "our combined fleet couldn't penetrate those shields. Your ship, while impressive, is outnumbered and outgunned. Perhaps we should coordinate a more strategic approach." The human's scarred face might have been carved from stone for all the emotion it showed. "Brother Captain," he corrected, "and the Emperor protects. We require no strategy beyond his will." "But the shields," Commander Vosh interjected. "Shields protect against weapons," Valerius said simply. "We are not weapons. We are his angels of death." He paused, and something that might have been amusement flickered in his eyes. "Also, shields require power. Cut the power, shields fail. Elementary tactics." Before any of the aliens could respond, the connection terminated. The human battle barge was accelerating directly toward the enemy vessel, its massive engines leaving trails of plasma in the void. "He's actually going to ram it," breathed Navigator Yill. "At that speed, both ships will be destroyed," Vash calculated quickly. "The kinetic energy alone." "Wait," Thek interrupted, studying his instruments. "They're not aiming for the hull. They're targeting the shield generators." The aliens watched in surprised silence as the Space Marine vessel struck the enemy's shield barrier. Instead of bouncing off like every other attack, the massive ship began pushing through, its reinforced prow grinding against the energy field like a drill boring through rock. "How?" Yill whispered. Sparks cascaded from the enemy ship as its shield emitters overloaded. The barrier flickered, then failed entirely, leaving the reptilian vessel naked in space. "Now," Vosh growled, reaching for his weapons console. "Wait," Thek commanded, holding up a wing. "Look!" Through the enemy ship's hull, cutting torches were already at work. The humans weren't retreating after their successful ram. They were boarding. Through the breach their ship had torn, armored figures were pouring into the enemy vessel like antibodies responding to an infection. "They're inside," Yill reported unnecessarily. "Internal sensors on the enemy ship are going dark, section by section." The reptilian vessel's weapons fell silent. Its engines died. Within minutes, the kilometer-long warship hung dead in space. "Incoming transmission," Yill announced. It's the human captain! He's inside the enemy ship!" Captain Brother Valerius appeared on screen again, but now his pristine armor was scorched and splattered with alien blood. Behind him, the corridor of the reptilian ship stretched into darkness, lit by the muzzle flashes of ongoing firefights. "Brother Captain Valerius to Allied fleet," he reported with the same calm tone he'd used before. "Enemy vessel secure. Boarding action successful. No Space Marine casualties." "No casualties?" Thuck squawked. "You rammed a shielded warship and boarded it against superior numbers?" 17 wounded, none seriously," Valerius corrected. "The enemy was unprepared for close combat. Their reptilian physiology makes them vulnerable to chainsword attacks, and their scales provide insufficient protection against bolt rounds at close range." A new voice crackled over the comm, rough and filled with, "Brother Captain, we've secured the engine room. Brother Sergeant Maximus requests permission to sanctify this vessel with demolition charges." "Granted, Brother Corvain. Set charges for 30 minutes. We still have Chaplain Demasius conducting the interrogation of survivors in Bay 7. Thek exchanged glances with his command crew. The casual way these humans discussed their surprisingly successful mission was almost more fearful than their tactics. "Brother Captain," the Corvani said carefully, "your ship took considerable damage ramming through those shields. Do you require assistance with repairs?" For the first time, the human smiled. It was not a reassuring expression. "The ship's machine spirit is strong, Captain Thek. A few prayers to the Omnisia, some sacred oils, and she'll be battle-ready within the hour." He paused. "Though we could use more ammunition. We're down to our last 10,000 rounds." "Last 10,000?" Commander Vosh's ears pricked forward. "How much ammunition did you bring?" "Sufficient," Valerius replied simply. "The Emperor provides." An explosion somewhere behind him lit the corridor in brief orange fury. The human didn't even flinch. "Brother Captain," came another voice over his comm, "we've extracted the shield technology specifications. The Tech Marines are already performing the appropriate purification rituals." "Excellent, Brother Thaddeus. Upload the data to our allies. They fought alongside us. They have earned the right to share in this victory." Captain Thek felt his talons grip his chair more tightly. "You're sharing the technology? Just like that?" "You stood with us against the heretics," Valerius said, confident matter-of-factly. "That makes you battle brothers. The Codex Astartes is clear on the bonds forged in righteous warfare." Before Thek could respond to this casual offer of what represented the most advanced defensive technology in known space, alarms began blaring on the enemy ship behind the Space Marine. "Brother Captain," came an urgent voice. "Massive enemy fleet approaching. 60-plus vessels, all broadcasting reptilian hegemony codes." The human's expression, calm, never changed. "Time until they arrive?" 18 minutes, sir." "More than enough time." Valerius turned back to face the screen. "Captain Thek."
"I recommend you and your fleet withdraw to a safe distance. What follows will not be subtle." "What are you planning?" Thek asked, though part of him wasn't sure he wanted to know. The Space Marine's smile returned, predatory and eager. "The same thing we always plan, alien battle brother. We kill the heretics, all of them." The transmission cut just as another explosion rocked the captured ship. Through the tactical displays, Thek could see the massive reptilian reinforcement fleet approaching. 60 ships versus one damaged human vessel. The odds had never been worse. "Sir," Navigator Yill said quietly, "should we withdraw?" Captain Thek studied the approaching enemy fleet, then looked back at the human ship. Steam was already venting from its hull as repairs commenced. And he could swear he heard what sounded like hymns being broadcast on multiple frequencies. "No," he decided. "I want to see what these humans do next." Brother Captain Thaddeus had seen many battlefields, but the sight before him still made his jaw clench. The reptilian dreadnought hung in space like a disgusted tumor, its shield crackling with energy that had already vaporized 3 Imperial cruisers. The Xenos had trapped a refugee convoy of Canis pack leaderships and their bovine agricultural vessels in the gravity well of a dead planet. Every conventional weapon bounced harmlessly off that accursed barrier. "Brother Captain," came the Vox transmission from the strike cruiser Unyielding Faith. "Admiral Karras of the Canine Defense Fleet requests immediate assistance." "The reptilian vessel has begun harvesting operations on the civilians." Thaddeus watched through the viewport as smaller reptilian craft emerged from the dreadnought, moving toward the helpless refugee ships. On the command deck, pack leader Karras, a dignified, wolf-like humanoid with graying fur around his muzzle, was coordinating evacuation efforts with desperate efficiency. "How long have your people been holding position?" Thaddeus asked through the comm channel. 18 hours, Honored Space Marine, Karras replied, his canine features tight with strain. "We've lost 7 escort vessels attempting to breach their defenses. That shield technology, we've never encountered anything like it." Beside Karras stood Dr. Mila Torsen, a bovine medic whose gentle brown eyes reflected the terror of her people. "Brother Captain, they're not just killing us. They're fearing prisoners, live ones. Our scouts report holding pens being constructed inside their vessel." Tech Marine Castor materialized beside Thaddeus, his servo skull whirring as it processed data from the enemy ship. "Brother Captain, I've completed my analysis. The shield operates on a rotating frequency that adapts to incoming energy signatures. Conventional weapons are useless." "And unconventional weapons?" Thaddeus asked. "Also ineffective.
The barrier reads any form of energy-based attack and instantly calibrates against it. However, Castor paused, his mechanical eye focusing on the dreadnought. The shield appears to be designed exclusively against ranged combat. There are, surprised, no specifications for dealing with direct physical intrusion. Pack Leader Karras's ears perked forward. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" Thaddeus allowed himself a confident smile. The Codex Astartes has 17 different protocols for boarding actions. None of them require functional shields on the target vessel. "Brother Captain," interrupted Brother Sergeant Marcus via Vox, "the Reptilians are beginning harvesting operations. 3 civilian vessels have been tractored into their docking bays." The image on the tactical display showed reptilian soldiers herding terrified canine and bovine civilians into transport pods. Dr. Torsen let out a low, sad, mournful sound that her species made in distress. "Pack Leader," Thaddeus addressed Kiris directly, "can your vessels provide covering fire for an approach?" "Against that shield? Brother Captain, with respect, it's fuside." "Not the ship," Thaddeus clarified. "Us." The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of ship systems. Karras's amber eyes, surprised, widened in understanding. "You mean to assault the vessel directly, in the vacuum of space, through that shield?" "The shield stops energy. We are not energy." Thaddeus turned to a strike team. "Brothers, prepare for combat drop. Full boarding protocol." Brother Apothecary Grimm stepped forward, his medical equipment humming. "Brother Captain, even with our enhanced physiology, extended exposure to void combat presents significant risks. The reptilian vessel is over 12 kilometers in length." "Then we better make good time." Thaddeus activated the ship-wide Vox. "All battle brothers, this is your captain. We face Xenos who believe themselves untouchable behind their barriers. Today, we remind them that the Emperor's wrath knows no limits. For the Emperor!" The response thundered through the ship. "For the Emperor!" As the Space Marines prepared their equipment, Dr. Torsen approached Thaddeus with obvious trepidation. "Brother Captain, I must ask, is this truly possible? Our military analysts calculated the odds of successfully boarding that vessel at less than 0.01%. "Doctor," Thaddeus replied while checking his bolt pistol, "we are Space Marines. We exist specifically to make the impossible merely improbable." Pack Leader Karras joined them, his tactical mind clearly surprised, wrestling with the concept. The approach vector alone? You'd have to travel nearly 40 kilometers through open space, under enemy fire, with no support. 43.7 kilometers, Tech Marine Castor corrected, his servo-skull chittering as it updated calculations, accounting for the target's defensive grid and optimal breach points. "And you believe this will work?" Karras pressed. Brother Sergeant Marcus locked his helmet into place, the red eye lenses glowing. "Pack Leader, with respect, you're thinking like prey. We are predators." The canine officer's hackles rose slightly at the comment, but before he could respond, the ship shuddered. The tactical display showed the reptilian dreadnought had increased its harvesting operations, with more civilian vessels being drawn into its maw. "Brother Captain," came an urgent vox from the bridge, "the Xenos are accelerating their timeline. They're taking entire ship populations now." Dr. Torsen's hands clenched into fists. "My people, my children are on those ships." Thaddeus placed a gauntleted hand on her shoulder. "Doctor, I give you my word as a Space Marine. We will retrieve your people. The Codex teaches us that no loyal citizen of the Emperor shall suffer alone." "But the distance!" "The void," Karras began. "Pack Leader, interrupted Brother Castor. May I ask, what is the maximum distance your people can survive in vacuum? Perhaps 30 seconds with preparation. Why? We can survive, surprised, 47 minutes. Our armor provides life support, our enhanced lungs process oxygen more efficiently, and our redundant organs compensate for pressure differential. Kara stared at him. 47 minutes in hard vacuum? If necessary, Thaddeus added, we have, confident, survived longer. The bovine doctor looked between the Space Marines with growing amazement. What kind of world did you come from that made such adaptations necessary? Terra, Brother Sergeant Marcus replied simply. Death World class designation. Surprised, everything there tries to kill you, including the air. Surprised, the air tries to kill you? Pollution, toxicity, radiation.
Standard atmospheric composition, Marcus shrugged. You adapt or die. Pack Leader Curus's ears flattened against his skull. Surprised? And you choose to live there? It's home, Thaddeus said, and it made us what we are. The tactical display flashed red as another civilian ship disappeared into the reptilian vessel's docking bay. Time was running out. Brother Captain, Dr. Torsen said quietly, if you can truly do this, if you can save my people, the Bovine Agricultural Consortium will be forever in your debt. As will the Canis Pack Leaders, Curus added. But I must ask, what do you need from us? Thaddeus was already moving toward the launch bays. Keep their attention focused on you. Make them think you're preparing another conventional assault. And pray to whatever gods you acknowledge that we reach them before they complete their harvest. We will, Dr. Torsen said firmly. The Emperor protects. Is that not what you say? The Emperor protects, Thaddeus confirmed. But today, we are his protection. As the Space Marines sealed themselves into drop pods modified for void combat, Pack Leader Karras watched through the observation deck. Dr. Torsen, I've fought beside many species in my career, but these humans, they're not like anything in our databases. No, she agreed, watching as the first drop pod launched into space, arcing toward the impossible distance of the reptilian dreadnought. They're not like anything in anyone's database. The pod disappeared against the starfield, followed by 7 others. 8 Space Marines hurtling through vacuum toward a ship that had destroyed entire fleets. On the reptilian dreadnought's bridge, Commander Sketh watched the primitive projectiles approaching on his sensors. Pathetic, he hissed to his tactical officer. They launch debris at us in desperation. Should we target them with defensive batteries, Commander? Why waste ammunition? Let them learn the futility of their gesture. But as the pods drew closer, their heat signatures became clear. Commander Sketh's cold blood chilled as he realized what he was seeing. Those aren't debris, he whispered. There are life signs in those projectiles. Impossible, Commander. Nothing can survive transit through open void at those distances. But the sensor readings didn't lie. 8 life signs, growing stronger as they approached, their pods beginning to angle toward vulnerable sections of the dreadnought's hull. For the first time in his military career, Commander Sketh felt something his species rarely experienced: uncertainty. The Space Marines were coming, and their target's shields meant nothing at all. The Reptilian Command Center erupted in chaos as Brother Sergeant Thane's squad carved through their defenses like a chainsword through parchment. Admiral Sithrak watched in horror as his impenetrable fortress became a slaughterhouse.
Impossible, he hissed, his scaled hands trembling over the controls. Their weapons cannot function. The dampening field. Sir, a technician's voice cracked with terror. They're not using energy weapons. They're using, surprised, metal blades. Captain Vorthak of the Canine Defense Force couldn't believe the tactical readouts flooding his screens. Commander Astra, are you seeing this? The humans are surprised? The avian officer's feathers, surprised, ruffled with disbelief. Winning? They're massacring them. How are they moving so fast in that crushing environment? Inside the reptilian flagship, Brother Thane backhanded a reptilian warrior across the bridge, his power-armored fist shattering the alien's jaw. "For the Emperor!" he roared, driving his combat knife deep into another's chest. Brother Marcus kicked down a blast door that should have taken heavy weapons to breach. Brother Sergeant found their shield generator. It's big. The generator room stretched before them like a cathedral of alien technology. Crystalline structures hummed with otherworldly energy, connected by conduits that pulsed with bioluminescent fluid. At the center, a massive core rotated slowly, protected by layers of force fields and automated defenses. "Beautiful," Thane said, reloading his bolt pistol. "Brothers, remember, the machine spirit must be appeased through righteous violence." A dozen reptilian guards emerged from concealment, their weapons trained on the Space Marines. Their leader, a scarred veteran, spoke in perfect Gothic. "Humans, you cannot comprehend the forces you're interfering with. This technology is beyond your primitive understanding." Brother Kael laughed, the sound echoing through his vox grill like grinding stone. "Primitive? Brother, we've been killing things for 10,000 years. You're just another Tuesday." The reptilians opened fire with exotic energy weapons that should have reduced the Space Marines to atoms. Instead, the beams simply stopped. The ship's own dampening field turned their weapons into expensive flashlights. "Oh, that's unfortunate," Thane observed mildly, drawing his chainsword. "For you." What followed was less a battle than a demonstration in applied ultra-violence. The Space Marines moved through the reptilian defenders like angels of death, their training and augmented physiology turning the dampening field from a weakness into an advantage. Where the aliens relied on technology, the humans had muscle, bone, and 10 millennia of close combat doctrine. Commander Astra watched the slaughter through the ship's internal sensors, her avian mind surprised, trying to process what she was seeing. They're surprised, enjoying this. Indeed, Brother Marcus was humming a war hymn as he strangled a reptilian with his bare hands. Brother Kael had taken to collecting enemy weapons as trophies, despite them being useless. And Brother Sergeant Thane was methodically working his way toward the shield generator with the patience of a craftsman. "No," Captain Vorthak corrected, his canine features grim with understanding. "They're not enjoying it. This is just Tuesday for them." Aboard the reptilian flagship, Admiral Sithrak made a desperate decision. He activated the ship's self-destruct sequence. If he couldn't have victory, he would deny it to these impossible humans. 10 minutes to core breach, his computer announced in cold, clinical tones. Brother Thane checked his chronometer. "Cutting it close, brothers. Time to work." Instead of fleeing or trying to disable the self-destruct, the Space Marines simply continued their mission. Brother Marcus began placing melta charges on the shield generator's support struts, while Brother Kael held off reinforcements. Thane himself approached the central core, studying its alien construction with the eye of a veteran tech marine. "Machine spirit of this Xenos device," he said, formally, as if addressing a fellow Imperial citizen, "I call upon you to cease your function in the name of the Emperor of mankind." He drove his chainsword into the core. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The shield generator didn't simply shut down, it exploded in a cascade of feedback that rippled through the entire reptilian fleet. Shield after shield collapsed as the resonance frequency tore through their network, leaving hundreds of ships suddenly vulnerable. But the Space Marines were still aboard a ship about to detonate. 8 minutes to core breach. "Time to leave, brothers," Thane announced calmly, as if suggesting they adjourn for evening prayers. What happened next entered the annals of Xenos military history as surprised, the impossible extraction. The Space Marines didn't use the same boarding pods that had brought them aboard. Those had been destroyed in the initial assault. Instead, they improvised. Brother Marcus found a cargo bay with atmospheric shields still intact. Brother Kael located emergency void suits designed for reptilian physiology. Brother Thane calculated trajectory, burn time, and gravitational variables in his head while fighting off the last, desperate defenders. "You're insane!" Admiral Sithrak screamed as Thane threw him aside to reach the bay controls. "You'll never survive vacuum exposure!" Surprised, Thane paused in his work, genuinely confused. "Brother, we're Space Marines." "We don't survive things, we kill them." He opened the cargo bay doors. The explosive decompression should have killed them instantly. Instead, the 3 Space Marines, surprised, simply walked into space. Their power armor's emergency seals engaged, their enhanced physiology adapted to the sudden pressure change, and their training took over. They jumped. Not toward their own ships, those were too far away. Instead, they aimed for the nearest reptilian vessel, now defenseless without its shields. As they fell through the void, they used their bolt pistols as energetic thrusters, firing in calculated bursts to adjust their trajectory. Captain Vorthak watched in stunned silence as 3 armored figures crashed through the bridge viewports of a reptilian cruiser, rolled to their feet, and immediately began killing everyone in sight. "How?" he whispered. Commander Astra's voice was barely audible. "They're from a death world, all of them, their entire species." Behind them, the reptilian flagship exploded in a ball of fusion fire, taking Admiral Sithrak and his dreams of conquest with it. The shockwave caught several nearby reptilian ships, sending them tumbling out of formation. What followed was not so much a battle as an aggressive execution. With their shields down and their command ship destroyed, the reptilian fleet found themselves facing the combined fury of a dozen different species who had been waiting months for this moment. Canine pack hunters coordinated with avian strike craft, while bovine heavy cruisers provided devastating covering fire. But it was the humans who had made it possible. 3 hours later, Captain Vorthak found himself aboard a human strike cruiser, sharing ceremonial drink with Brother Sergeant Thane. The Space Marine had removed his helmet, revealing a scarred, weathered face that looked like it had been carved from granite. "I must ask," Vorthak said, carefully, "how did you know to target the shield generator directly? Our best scientists couldn't find a weakness." Thane shrugged, a gesture made oddly casual by 2 tons of power armor. Wasn't about science, Captain. Was about faith. Faith? The Emperor protects, Thane explained, patiently, as if speaking to a child. But sometimes he protects by putting enemies in front of us who need killing. Those shields weren't unbreakable. They just hadn't met the confident right humans yet. Commander Astra, perched delicately on a chair designed for much larger beings, spoke up. But the calculation required to disable their entire network through harmonic resonance, the precision needed. Ma'am, Brother Marcus interrupted politely, with respect, we didn't calculate anything. We just stabbed it until it stopped working. The assembled Xenos officers exchanged glances. Captain Vorthak spoke for all of them. That's terrifying. Is it? Thane seemed genuinely curious. On Terra, we call it Tuesday. As the joint fleet began cleanup operations, removing reptilian survivors and rescuing enslaved populations, the various species found themselves grappling with a new reality. The humans, these impossible, wonderful, terrifying humans, were not going away. Commander Astra filed her after-action report with trembling talons. Recommend immediate full alliance with human Imperium. Alternative is too horrific to contemplate, facing them as enemies. Captain Vorthak was more direct. They jumped into space without hesitation. They used their own weapons as thrusters. They crashed through armored viewports and kept fighting. And when I asked Brother Thane how many other Space Marines there were, he said, about 1 million chapters. I don't know what a chapter is, but if it's more like them? The Bovine Confederation's representative summed it up best. We spent centuries developing unbreakable shields. They solved the problem with sharp metal and pure stubbornness. I'm not sure whether to be impressed or horrified. Brother Sergeant Thane, reviewing the casualty reports, made a note in his personal log. Enemy shields proved effective against energy weapons, but vulnerable to blessed steel and righteous fury. Recommend further deployment of boarding actions against similar targets. The Emperor's will be done. He paused, then added, made several new allies among local xenospecies. They seem decent folk for aliens. Brother Marcus has already started teaching their younglings the proper way to maintain a chainsword. The Emperor protects even those who don't know his name yet. Across the galaxy, word spread through communication networks and trade routes. The humans were here. They couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be stopped, and, most terrifyingly of all, they could be befriended. The age of human expansion had begun in earnest, and the universe would never be the same. As Brother Thane always said, there is no problem that cannot be solved with enough faith, enough firepower, and enough humans willing to charge directly at it while screaming. The reptilian hegemony would remember that lesson for the brief remainder of their existence. 10 years after the Battle of Zarian Prime, Admiral Kethvar of the Leonine Confederation stood on the observation deck of the Starfall. Watching human ships conduct joint exercises with the Coalition fleet, the sight still filled him with equal parts admiration and existential dread. Still thinking about that day, old friend? The voice belonged to Captain Marcus Valerius of the Ultramarines, now bearing the scars of 100 battles since Zirion. The Space Marine had insisted on keeping his original rank despite offers of promotion. A captain leads from the front, he'd said, in that matter-of-fact way humans had of stating the impossible as routine. How could I not? Kethvar's leonine features creased into what humans had learned to recognize as his version of a smile. Your species redefined our understanding of impossible in a single afternoon. The Battle of Zirian Prime had become legend among the coalition races. The reptilian hegemony's new shield technology had rendered their dreadnoughts untouchable. Energy weapons simply dissipated. Kinetic projectiles bounced harmlessly away. For 3 months, their invincible fleet had carved through coalition space like a blade through silk. Then, the humans arrived. Not with some miraculous counter-technology or brilliant scientific breakthrough. They'd simply looked at the problem and said, if we can't shoot through it, we'll go around it. If we can't go around it, we'll go through it. If we can't go through it, Marcus had shrugged. Sarcastic, we'll knock on the door. What followed was the most surprisingly insane military operation in galactic history. Space Marines in boarding pods had literally crashed through the shields, not by overwhelming them, but by moving slowly enough that the shields didn't register them as threats. Then they'd proceeded to systematically dismantle 3 dreadnoughts from the inside, deck by deck, bulkhead. The look on High Command's faces when you suggested walking through energy shields. Kethvar chuckled, a sound like distant thunder. Our physicists are still publishing papers trying to explain why it worked. Physics is just suggestions, Marcus replied with characteristic human pragmatism. The Emperor protects, but a chainsword helps. In the decades since, everything had changed. The coalition had adopted human boarding tactics, though no other species could replicate their surprised, casual disregard for personal safety. The reptilian hegemony had retreated beyond the outer rim, their unbreakable technology rendered obsolete by humanity's confident inability to accept that anything was truly impossible. More importantly, the philosophical shift had been profound. The various coalition species, Kethvar's proud Leonines, the scholarly Avarian Confederacy, the steadfast Ursan clans, had all learned the most valuable human lesson. Limitations existed to be exceeded. Your people have requests for 3 more joint training programs, Kethvar mentioned, reviewing his datapad. The canine military packs want to learn your boarding assault techniques. The aquatic collective is fascinated by your amphibious void operations. And the Primarchs help us all. The Ursans want to learn why you consider melee combat in space tactically sound. Marcus nodded approvingly. Good. The galaxy's a dangerous place. Everyone should know how to fight properly. Properly, in human terms, meant accepting casualty rates that would cause most species to surrender immediately, viewing suicidal odds as challenging, and treating the concept of impossible as a personal insult. It was working disturbingly well. The coalition had expanded its territory by 40%. Pirate activity had dropped to near zero. Apparently, word had spread that humans considered boarding actions recreational. 3 previously unconquerable fortress worlds had fallen to tactics that other species described as weaponized insanity, and humans called Tuesday. My granddaughter asked me something yesterday, Kethvar said, quietly. She wanted to know why humans aren't afraid of dying. What did you tell her? That you're not unafraid of dying, you're afraid of failing. Kethvar's amber eyes met the Space Marine's steady gaze. "Your people don't seek death. You simply consider it an acceptable price for victory." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching human pilots practice combat maneuvers that would liquefy most other species. "Death is nothing compared to dishonor. The Emperor expects us to give everything, but more importantly, our brothers expect us to never give up." That was the key, Kethvar had realized. Humans didn't fight for abstract concepts or territorial gains. They fought for each other, with a loyalty that transcended species barriers. Within hours of first contact, they'd adopted the coalition races as extended family, and no one threatened a human's family twice. "The reptilians sent another diplomatic probe last month," Kethvar mentioned. "Same message, terms for conditional surrender." "Same response?" "Same response, though I believe the exact wording was, 'Come and take it.'" Kethvar's laugh was genuinely amused now. "I'm starting to understand why your species uses that phrase so often." In the distance, a human transport was docking with an Avarian science vessel. Through the viewports, Kethvar could see the familiar sight of humans immediately befriending everyone they encountered, sharing food, stories, and tactical advice with equal enthusiasm. By the end of the week, the Avarians would probably be attempting boarding actions themselves. The galaxy was becoming a very different place. Safer for coalition citizens, infinitely more dangerous for their enemies, and somehow hopeful than it had been in centuries. The humans had brought something unexpected, the radical notion that any problem could be solved if you were willing to pay the price and refused to quit. "Marcus," Kethvar said as the Space Marine prepared to leave, "when your people first arrived, our xenobiologists classified you as an extinction-level threat to galactic stability." "Oh?" Marcus paused, genuinely curious. "What do they classify us as now?"
Kethvar's leonine features curved into a predatory grin that would have terrified their enemies. "Essential." As Marcus departed, Kethvar remained at the observation deck, watching human ships patrol the borders of Coalition space. Somewhere out there, the galaxy's predators were learning a simple truth that had taken the Coalition too long to understand. There were no unbreakable shields, no unconquerable fortresses, no impossible odds. There were only humans and the problems they hadn't solved yet.
Angels fall.